Hello, welcome to Shadow Cosmic Chaos. I'm your host, Ian Waffles, and I'm here with my co-host, the Silver Ace 01. Say hi.
Hi.
There we go. All right, now let's...
Well, yeah. I mean, he said it all. Yeah. By the way, if my voice sounds a little different, I am just recently getting over a cold, audience. So don't worry. It's just because I was recently begging for death, but it's fine now.
Indeed. He's not trying out for Shadow, It's all going to work out.
But yeah, we're here. You read the title, you know what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Dark Beginnings. Off the bat, I feel pretty comfortable in saying it's pretty good.
Yeah. No, I think it's really good. Especially like as a kind of a whole package when it kind of all goes together.
Well, that's the thing. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean.
No, you go ahead. Yeah, you're probably going to build off.
Well, that's the thing is I remember, especially after the second episode. Ian, do you remember being in like 8th grade? Right before lunch. You know, you were really hungry. You were starving. All you could think about was food. And you got to the cafeteria, and they gave you like 5 chicken nuggets and like a scoop of corn. And it felt like the lunch lady was personally insulting you because it's like, I'm somehow hungrier after eating this. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
That's what it felt. That's what this series really felt like in parts. Was like, and I guess the thing is, like, if your big complaint about this is, well, I wanted more of it, you know, in a way that's a good thing. But on the other hand, you know, bringing it back to my lunch analogy, you don't want it to feel unsatisfying.
Yes.
And thankfully, I would say by the end of it, it sticks the landing and it does feel satisfying.
Yeah.
Because one argument I could see against it, or even if it were unsatisfying, is like, well, it's a prequel. It's meant to leave you wanting more. It's meant to whet your appetite. And I would agree if Sonic X Shadow Generations was an animated movie.
Yes, like if this was like a tie-in thing to a show or a movie,
yes.
that was going to be the same. But no, this is all of it.
Yes. So let's just dive right into it. Let's just start with episode 1. We're not going to go like scene by scene, but I just think we can talk about some interesting stuff. And right off the bat, I want to say Maria's new voice actress is Stephanie Sheh, and some of you out there might recognize her as the English dub voice of Sailor Moon. So that's really cool. My fellow Moonies, out there, rise up. It's funny because she's not doing just that voice, so I didn't pick it up right away, like from the original preview. But it's definitely, I mean, it's her voicing a young girl, so you hear it for long enough. It's like, hey, wait, I think that I heard that voice for 200 episodes in multiple movies. So that's really cool. Welcome to the Sonic cast. Yeah, but I guess starting off, like, Ian, do you have any like standout moments from this first episode that you want to talk about?
I mean, definitely, I would say like the sky scene at the end, where Shadow's kind of floating through sky, and you see like the imagery of like the gun soldiers and Maria, just like a lot of really cool imagery. But I also, it's kind of feels like an underrated moment. I really liked when he woke up by the tree and he kind of looks up at the moon, and like there's just like a beautiful sky. I don't know, it just had a really nice feeling to it of it being kind of like this dream. And Shadow's just kind of sleeping out in the middle of nowhere. I don't know. It felt really cool.
Yeah, no, that scene was great. Although I think it's funny. So the moon is broken again.
Yes.
And it's just interesting because it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we're reintroducing continuity where we were previously disregarding it. So it's like, what was up with the moon and like Sonic Heroes and Shadow the Hedgehog and Sonic 06? Yeah.
Yes.
it was. I mean, I guess we just have to take Izuka's answer that it was facing the other side.
It was facing the other way. That's how the Sonic Moon works.
Yeah. Although it's funny, audience, for anyone who's watched Symphogear, it very much reminded me of that because in that series, spoiler alert for the first season, the moon gets kind of fucked up, and the debris of the moon like orbits around it for the rest of the series. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that whole trippy dream sequence is great. The bit where Maria gets like shot through the heart and it like cracks. I think my favorite bit was probably Gerald's bit where Shadow lands and like the light is swinging above him and it's like glitching out and it's like really creepy. Like I loved that.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to say is Emerald. He sure was there.
Yeah, so we can kind of get into this. So a lot of this is obviously trying to like create callbacks for when you play the game, and also just for fans, to be like, oh hey, like that little thing from Sonic Battle where like Emerald kind of invaded the Ark or whatever, or, like went out of control. That that's canon. That happened, and like we get to see a visualization of it. I would say the only like the problem I felt when I first watched it anyway was that it kind of just felt like useless to the story, because it's like oh shit, like this is gonna be like a story about this happening, but it's like, oh no, it's just a memory. But the Emerald memory has nothing to do with Maria dying. It's just a thing that happened to him on the Ark, so it kind of just feels superfluous, Mm-hmm. And then once the story ends, it ties up, kind of being about Maria. But I think that considering the whole the again all of these kind of being together as one thing, I think that flows a lot better when it's like, oh, the opening is kind of just like a bunch of fun, cool, flashy stuff. And then obviously there's flashy stuff throughout, but like by the end, whenever he's going back to the Ark, it's less about like it's more so like, okay, now you've been reminded all these events happened to him on this Ark, and now he's going back to that. This is why it's making him feel a way as he does, when we get to the third episode. So I feel like when it connects together, I think that's what makes all of these much stronger. But as individual episodes, I thought the first one was the weakest because one, like the Emerald thing, like you said, where it's just kind of here. But two, I think like the facial animation on Maria is like pretty darn bad.
There's one bit where Maria like glides across the floor, and I was like, oh no, are we in trouble here? But
yeah, like, well, I mean, just like her facial animation when she's like, oh, I'm so tired, or like she's like trying to be happy. Like there's just no really shifting on it. Like all the Sonic characters look great, but like Maria looked really, really bad in that scene. But then like after that, I never had any problems with the animation going forward. But like that was kind of like it's like, well, I kind of wanted to care a little more about that. So that was kind of my general feeling on the chapter as a like chapter. Is like it looked really cool. I mean, it all looks gorgeous. It all looks amazing. But it kind of is a good reminder of like the substance I got out of it was just kind of like, oh yeah, I'm reminded that this happened to Shadow. Okay, that's fine, I guess. But then once you combine it all, it's like, okay, I see what it's going for, and I think that makes it much stronger. So yeah.
It's interesting that you would say that you thought episode 1 was the weakest. I thought episode 2 was by far the weakest, but we'll get to that in a moment. One last thing I want to say about episode 1, or just kind of the thing as a whole, is Kirk Thornton. I think he does a really good job here.
Yeah, especially in the third one, I thought he did a really good job.
Oh yeah,
like I thought like I was like just hearing like because I don't generally care too much for like Maria's dub voice or like a lot of like the stuff with like the Commander or even Rouge. Like I don't know, their voices just don't really click for me. Not that they're terrible, but I'm just like, yeah, no, that's voice acting. Like I'm hearing a voice for this character. But like for Shadow, by the end of it, I was like, no, that I didn't notice that it wasn't like that. It's like, oh, this is someone playing Shadow. Hopefully they get it right. I'm just like, oh wait, shit. I just felt like I was listening to Shadow, so it was good.
Yeah, I know. Well, and I think, and obviously I've made jokes on the show before, but I've never hated Kirk's Shadow except in Boom. I did not like it in Boom, but pretty much any other time he's shown up, I thought he was fine.
He's dropped the vampire accent.
I appreciate that. Yes. I think the big thing here, and it's similar to why I liked Roger's portrayal in Sonic Frontiers, is that it doesn't sound, like you said, it doesn't sound like a guy doing a silly voice, which is very much what Sonic and Shadow have sounded like for like the last decade, is guys doing silly voices. And now you can make the argument as far as Roger that like, okay, because like both of them, it's like, okay, they're just talking. Obviously they're acting, they're accenting their voice, but it sounds much more like a natural voice. And the argument you would make for Roger is like, okay, but his natural voice is not fitting for Sonic. And I wouldn't even disagree with that, but I think I just prefer that to him doing a silly voice. Yeah. And I think it's similar here.
Yeah, for sure. Did you have another thing to say about this? Because I had one more thing.
No, just like I said, I just wanted to say like Kirk Thornton, good job. That was my last bit on episode 1.
Yeah, my only other one for that was I wanted to say that the I said the directing's really good, but one of the things that I thought was really good about the pacing of it is they do a very good job of not letting the audience understand whether we're in like the past or future. So for example, like when they're running, they have like they're like breathing in a way that is obviously supposed to be reminiscent of Shadow 05, where he's running with Maria and she gets shot. And so like it starts off and it's like, oh, are they running away? But then it's like, oh no, then it's like, oh, I'm trying to show you these beautiful lights, right? And then after that, it's like, oh, but Shadow's like, ah, shit, I suck at healing people, and then she's like, no, I care about you. And at first I thought it felt really rushed, But then once I realized that no, things are supposed to be like rapidly flipping back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, I think it made it really compelling. So I really liked that about it. I thought that was really clever. So
Yeah, I agree.
then we can go to episode 2.
Yes, which I thought this was the weakest one.
All right.
Well, because for me, so this stuff on the arc is good with Shadow and Maria and Abraham Tower, which I guess we could talk about. His name is Abraham Tower now.
Yeah, it's an Archie reference. Whoa, yeah.
Yeah, we got a win, Ian. We got one.
We did. I mean, here's the thing. When they called him Abe, I was like, all right, guys, it's great. It's like, sure, it's Abraham. But when he did say like, oh, I'm Abraham Tower, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like that is like that is stamping it of like, this is his name. It's not just like, oh, we got to give the kids a name because like Maria's not going to call him little brother or little cousin. You know, she's got to call him something, right? So it's like, oh, we called him Abe. The fact that he's like, this is Commander Abraham Tower, I was like, oh, you know what? One, good for Flynn. Obviously, that's fucking cool for him because he didn't only call him Abraham in the comic; he called it in his fan comic. So that's like a really deep, like he got to put something from his fan fiction in the Sonic universe, which is crazy.
Awesome.
You know, so that's awesome for him. And you know, it's a cool name. It's just cool. It's just cool to have this guy be a character. So, and we'll talk about more him for the third one, but yeah, it's just cool. Like I don't think it's like this earth shattering, like, oh my gosh, they're next, first Abraham Tower, next Sally Acorn. Like it's not gonna happen, but
I'd be surprised, but
yeah, but it's cool nonetheless, and it's neat,
yeah, but and then we get the bit where Shadow so actually something that's interesting is that with the scene in the first episode where Maria collapses due to overexertion and the scene in this where Shadow is looking at the Black Arms larva, there's a bit of overlap in this with the Shadow manga that we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Which I imagine it's just they got similar notes of like, cover these plot points, but still it's interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
So, it's just a good scene where Shadow's like, oh, I'm a monster. I'm no different from this stupid larva. And Maria's like, oh, no, you're not. And, it's a good scene that, again, I think this series does a lot of work in a very short amount of time to endear us to Maria. Because if you've seen the trailers for Sonic X Shadow Generations, it seems like we're going to be seeing more of her in there.
Yeah.
So I think in a very short amount of time, this series does a lot of heavy lifting to make us care about her and to make us like her. Also, I was watching someone else react to this. I believe it was Charai5, and he had the idea, what if the way that Black Doom was able to come back is like through this larva?
Somewhere on the arc.
Yeah, like this larva was like somewhere in storage, and so when Super Shadow killed him, his like mind went into like the last Black Arms thing, which was this larva.
No, I think that's a good idea because I mean because it wasn't like, oh, this is Black Doom's starfish eye, like it's this recognizable thing. It's like a new thing they had to design, so I would imagine they wouldn't want that to go to waste.
Yeah, well, and also it's just a good Chekhov's gun, to set up in this for the game, and then the rest of this is fun. But it is the epitome of like, oh, that wasn't very satisfying. Where like Team Dark just tears up a Eggman base, and they're like, oh, but we gotta go get a spaceship.
Yeah, I mean, for that one, I just think it was fun. The idea of like it's just a very simple, obviously concept, but it's just Shadow being like, oh, nobody's gonna care about me or whatever. I'm like a freak, and she's like, oh no, eventually you'll find people who you care about, and then obviously who shows up in the story. People that Shadow cares about and trusts. And they show a lot of that through the action. Like there's little moments where obviously they're just all teaming up and they don't have to be like, oh, can you help me out or blah, blah, blah. They just kind of do it. And so, it was a situation where it was a lot of showing through actions, which I really enjoyed. Obviously the action looked really cool. Just fighting all these different robots. I think it had my favorite action as far as like the combat goes, just because I love the hand-to-hand combat with the egg pawns and like slamming them into the wall and just kind of the transitions of like Rouge fighting while talking and like doing things. I just felt like it had like the best flow, even though obviously it's very short, but I don't know. It just felt like everything kind of rapidly flowed together and created this big action scene. And again, when you combine it with the bigger picture, the first one's very trippy and very out there. The second one's just very much just like, here's a big action scene with Shadow fighting alongside his friends. Who again, he doesn't even have to like say anything, which will be very much prevalent in the third one with Shadow kind of speaking through. And then I had, the cute little thing about like, oh, you got to come to Sonic's birthday party, which I've seen people get like really confused about, as if like Rouge, didn't go to the party in the game. So it's like, guys, she wants him to go because she's just like, yeah, you should go to Sonic's party. You've known him. Like, you should just go. Like, I've seen people really overthink this. Like, are they saying that Rouge and Sonic are best buddies? I'm like, no, it's just that they all know each other, and he should just probably go to Sonic's party.
Rouge is Shadow's extrovert friend who tries to drag him to things. It's not.
Yeah, it's not that complicated. So, but yeah, no, I really liked it. I thought obviously the directing, the action, and yeah, no, I just thought it was fun. But on its own, I agree with you. When I first watched it, I was like, oh, well, that was fast. Like it's really short, But again, combined together, I think it works out really well. So
I should also say, I bet Rouge didn't have to bribe Shadow into going to Amy's party.
No, I mean, he personally bought, tickets and stuff. So, You know what? For once, I'll give you a real point towards Shad Amy.
Yeah, I should say I stole that from Channel Pup. He brought that up. But yeah, then just looking at my notes. Oh, no Sonic fandom. Shadow knowing he's part alien on the Ark is not a plot hole. The only time he would have remembered it is during SA2. And when would he have brought it up during SA2?
Yeah, when it would have been relevant to anything.
I have to go now. I have to keep my promise to Maria and you. Also, I'm part alien.
And Satan.
But now, thank you for releasing me, my master. I will grant you one wish. Also, I'm part alien.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, whatever, guys. Like, this is... If anyone's going to be mad about this for the Sonic franchise, like, this is a really, really stretching when there's a lot of things that actually don't make any sense. So, yeah. But yeah, so that's that one for that one.
A jewel containing the ultimate power. Also, I'm part alien.
No, he goes to it's whenever Rouge is in the vault and he thinks of Maria, and he goes troublemaker. Also, and then he comes back to the camera. Also, I'm part alien.
Let me.
Hello, Fox News. I'm part alien. Also, Sonic did this, not me.
Awesome.
And then they go, Sonic is part alien. Oh my gosh.
Oh jeez. One last thing is that obviously the Eggman base they break into is a pyramid cave, which is just a fun little thing. What's interesting about these and what these little animated shorts really reminded me of is, did you ever read the Sonic Forces prequel comics?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, before Sonic Forces came out, Ian Flynn wrote 3 little digital comics that were prequels for the game, and they feel very much similar to this, where because in one of those, it's on Angel Island, and Knuckles is chilling with the Master Emerald, and Silver shows up, and the Phantom Ruby makes the fucking ancient ruins show up, and Chaos shows up, and it's a bunch of crazy shit with all these crazy callbacks, and of course none of that's in the game, because they were written by different people.
Yeah,
but it's just it's a crazy kind of showing of how far we've come. First of all, with this franchise, and it just reminded me of that. It's just neat, I guess.
I agree.
And then episode 3, which I think is probably the strongest one.
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah, so we open up with them with them breaking into the gun base, which I mean you could make the argument of and they'd say why didn't they just ask? It makes it realistically. They say oh, why wouldn't Shadow just ask? It's Rouge works for Gun. But it's why they couldn't just ask? Because we needed a fun action scene of them breaking into the base. So I'm okay with it. Rule of cool and all that. There's actually a really fun bit that I like where when the heavy dog, I think is what it's called, shows up to attack them, Shadow has a little smile. But he's
yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna fuck this shit up.
Yeah, this will be fun.
It's God, yes, he can emote again. We're so back.
Yeah, I know. Well, especially by the end, but we'll get to it.
Yes.
But yeah, I think the big thing that stood out to me, obviously, once again, the action was really good. I think that as far as a big spectacle moment, they just did such a good job with using the powers in a way where you have the panning shot of the heavy dog trying to move across the environment and Shadow's just flashing in different spots and you have to try to keep up with them. Or just the ways they would have like the camera focus on like Omega's like gun rattling off the ground, just like very tactile. The thing exploding, and then like after the explosion, Shadow just kind of appears, and it literally is like if you blink, like he'll just appear. So like it's just really cool in that sense, using chaos control, all that kind of stuff. But I think the thing that I really appreciated about the story was it finally sold me on the idea that like Ian Flynn and like all these characters and like all these writers keep like gesturing towards like this is what Sega says Shadow is, where it's like Sega says that Shadow like doesn't work for gun, he doesn't have like he's not actually like a part of Team Dark or whatever, like a real team, and he is someone who doesn't care for humanity, but he kind of just does what he wants. And that made sense to me in this. Like it finally like cemented in a way that I thought was compelling, where it's like Shadow just comes in here and takes what he wants and does what he wants, and you all just have to deal with it. And if you want to fight him, he's going to take you down. But as we see in that one part, he saved the soldier, and that gun soldier sees him as terrifying and scary. So also we have this idea of like Shadow isn't seen as like this big hero. He's still seen as kind of like a scary guy. So but he is going to save that person, and it doesn't have to be because he's like, oh, I need to save you because death is bad or whatever. He just does it in the same way that Sonic is someone who does what he feels is right, but obviously his way is usually less destructive. Shadow is, and he is just going to fuck you over and fuck you up if he has to. But in the end, he's not like a monster, and he's just going to do what he's going to have to do. And I thought like they showed that really well through like the actions and all that stuff, and then they contrasted that in the end, where they kind of bring up like it's like, well, why didn't he just ask? Like he should have trust me by now, or whatever. And Rouge says like, well, there's only one person who he would like trust in that sense or in that way, and it's like, yeah, and she's been gone for a long time. So it's like the idea is like, yeah, Shadow maybe used to be able to be someone like that, or possibly could have been someone like that, but due to his past and due to who he is someone who feels that he needs to do things on his own. He will work together with people. There are people he trusts, but he's not going to be outwardly open about that. And then when he's finally alone on the ship, that's when he actually because he's had these memories, he's had these visions, they're actually starting to like get to him because he's going back to the Ark. He's heading there right now. And so since this is all fresh in his mind, he actually starts to like really think about it. And I like someone pointed out that Shadow isn't just having flashbacks because they never went to Earth. Like they're in like this grassy field or whatever, where it's like him and Maria. But those aren't flashbacks. That never happened. So really he's actually thinking about what could have been and then saying like, no, I've lost that life. I'm never going to get that back, or I'm never going to be allowed to have that, so I shouldn't cling to that. I need to do my mission. And I'm like, you know what? There you go. Like, I finally get this version of Shadow that they've been trying to, like, sell to me, but, like, now it actually has, like, a heart and, like, a face and, like, an idea that I can grasp onto. So I just thought it was excellent.
Well, it's just he acts like a person. Like, that's all it really took. Like, the scene where he saves the gun soldier, I love that scene. Because I think with Shadow, he can be brooding, he can be angsty, but I think at his core, he needs to value innocent life. I think it does not make any sense with his backstory and with the arc he went through in SA2 and throughout Heroes and all that, for him to be like, oh, well, if these people die in an avalanche, whatever, fuck them.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing is it's always like when Shadow does anything good in the IDW comics, he has to like clarify that he's not doing it because he likes you, Baka. And it's like, guys, if that's really how he feels, right, then just have him say nothing. Right. Like he does, or like, for example, like whenever Shadow uses like the Chaos Emeralds in the Imperial City or whatever, and he's like you could have just had him be like, these fake emeralds. Okay, I'm going to use this. Instead, he's like, these worthless, pathetic, stupid fake emeralds. I guess I could use your power. And it's like, Shadow, shut the fuck up. Like, so like, so like, I think that's what really finally sells it is like Shadow shuts the fuck up. He finally just does it,
One other thing you mentioned in terms of Shadow's characterization, which I noticed, there is not a peep about him working for Gun in this, which had to have been deliberate. Because I mean, it's Ian Flynn. Like, yeah, there is no way that he would not have thrown in a line of like, he used to work here for Pete's sake, or blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So the fact that there wasn't even a throwaway line about him having used to work for Gun or having him have done some missions for Gun, that's deliberate. That feels like a mandate. That feels like something Sega was like, don't touch that. Which is so weird because, and obviously, Ian, you and I, we have a particular attachment to Gun Agent Shadow because we love Archie. Whereas in the games, it was really only in 06. But Sonic X Shadow Generations is paying special attention to 06. So I don't know. That felt weird. Again, it felt like a very deliberate omission.
Well, and again, it's one of those things where just like Sonic canon is just it's fake. It's not real. It's it's whatever they want it to be. And so that's just kind of the thing where it's like, okay, at this point in time, yeah, Shadow never worked for Gun. It's just not a real thing that happened. But
Sure.
also Shadow the Hedgehog, but also Sonic 06 happened, and we're gonna fight Mephiles.
But
Agent Shadow, who?
yeah. A couple of interesting things, like you said, the gun commander shows up. That's Roger voicing him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It sounds kind of like his Captain America voice, or just his normal speaking voice. Does a good job. I liked seeing the commander again. And there's I gotta hop back on my bullshit for a second. There are technically 2 people who have been able to talk Shadow down. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Sonic. In Archie
No.
Sonic, when they say Sonic showed me the light. Yeah. I thought that was a good Archie reference.
Well, look.
Who are you thinking of? Was there like a third, like less important person?
You fucking asshole. Look, Archie Sonic can only be superior to the game canon in almost every way. Can't be superior in every way.
Yeah.
But
I do think it's funny though that people actually did think like Sonic. It's like, when has Sonic ever talked Shadow into doing anything ever?
Sure, I don't know. And then I guess we should say there's an original song that plays at the end of this that I imagine will be in Sonic X Shadow Generation.
Apparently, it was made just for the animation.
What?
Yeah, the lady who sings it, and I guess she does like a lot of Ruby songs. If you ever watch any of that, RWBY.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah, it's like the singer for that. So, but anyway, they were like, "Oh, I'm glad we finally got to show you the song that was made for this animation." So.
Wait, then why did they not just have it play over the credits? Like, why did they have it cut off and have the credits played?
Because it was song? Like, I think it was made for that scene, Like, I'm sure there's a full version, because like that happens in things, where you have like the opening. Yeah. And it's not the full opening, but I don't know if it's gonna be in the game. I would hope it would, because I think it would make a really good ending song. Yeah.
Well, but on the other hand, I would hope they didn't spoil the ending song in the prequel. Hold on, let me.
Well, not like it's the full version anyway, so
that's fair. Hold on, I'm gonna see if the full thing is on the internet yet.
I don't think so. They're probably.
I looked up Dark Beginnings song, and I found Dark Beginnings by Randall Standridge. So you can go listen to that, audience. But anyway, but yeah. So there's a song. Shadow, like you said, has the moment where he's like flashing to like what could have been of him and Maria like sitting in a field and her like covering him with a blanket, and the facial animation they have on him is great.
Yeah, it's really good.
And so it's interesting. Those of you who have been in the Sonic fan base for a while may remember that in the lead up to Sonic Forces, when it was shown, oh, Shadow's going to be a bad guy, and Sega was like, oh, do you want to know why he's a bad guy? Well, we'll tell you. There's definitely a very real reason for why the real Shadow is really a bad guy in this game. We promise. You all may remember that a very prominent fan theory at that time was that Infinite promised to bring back Maria. And I think at least me, and I'm sure a lot of people, never really believed that. Just because, like, for everything we had seen from the game up till that point, there didn't seem to really be any humans in it. It seemed weird. But people really gravitated towards that idea because it's a really heart-wrenching idea of Shadow maybe being lured back to the dark side for this promise of being able to be with Maria again. And, obviously then towards the end of the game, having to wrench that away and move on from the past again. And of course that didn't end up happening in Sonic Forces. But I think we're going to get something like that in this, based on what we saw in like the trailer. And that's pretty heavy.
Well, especially, we read Archie recently. There's kind of a scene in that comic where Shadow is in a white world as things have to fade away as he has to let go of Maria again. And it kind of seems like that might actually happen in the games, but with the context of Game Shadow.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting because it's like, So I was, again, going back to Sonic Forces for a second, I was at like the peak of my Sonic fandom when that game came out. I was so excited. I was like constantly theorizing. I was super excited for like, oh, like they're taking their plot seriously again. And I would say Sonic Forces has like the best plot of the meta era, you know, from like Colors to wait, did I say Frontiers? I meant Forces. Um I would say Forces has the best plot of like the meta era, you know, from Colors to Forces, but it's not good, you know.
Uh-huh.
And by the time we finally got to Frontiers, I remember very much being like, oh yeah, they brought Ian Flynn on, you know, it's going to be better than those stories because Ian Flynn's a good writer. But like, I wasn't excited. You know, Sonic stories hadn't excited me in a while. You know, I didn't really love the comics. And you know, Ian, you and I disagree on this. I really liked Frontier's story.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's weird because it's like I am looking forward to the story of Sonic Shadow Generations. Like I'm very interested to see like various twists and turns it takes, which is just it's a good feeling. Like, is this what people with competently run franchises?
Is this what Nintendo fans feel every day of their fucking lives?
Is this what winning feels like?
No, I agree. No, I'm genuinely excited for it. And I don't know if you've been hearing this, but based on everything Flynn has said and a few other rumors, apparently he's going to be, and don't hold on to this too hard, but I think this is true. He's going to be rewriting Generations itself.
I've heard.
Yeah. Which, if that's the case, then yeah, we just took like one of the best Sonic games and just made it definitely the best Sonic game.
Yeah, I will say it's interesting. I mean, the only unfortunate thing is then I'm gonna have to replay Generations, you know, which like, oh no, Generations, what a terrible game. But it's like,
oh no.
But that will be interesting to see like if he does change it. But yeah, no, I guess I had one last point I was going to make before I went off about Forces. What was it? Oh no.
White World Shadow.
Yep. No,
Maria.
It's Maria.
Maria.
But
oh yeah, by the way, giving Kirk Thornton some credit, I really like the way he delivered like all of the last scene's lines. I thought like again that was like, oh my gosh, I just listened to Shadow.
Certainly. Yeah, no. Yeah, I got nothing. We're gonna be reviewing the game in like 2 weeks, so it'll come back to me by then, hopefully.
Are you gonna get it early?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, me too. Which apparently these will then be in that version, like you can watch them in the game, so that'll be great.
Yeah, I also apparently Gerald's diary is in the game, which is good because I did not order a physical version. So
that'll be cool too, because hopefully maybe you can collect like pages in the overworld or something. Again, like just so much about this game, I'm just like, what's the catch? Every time I see a new thing for it, I'm like, what's the catch? Because you know, with a Sonic game, you can tell like just by looking at it, like, okay, here's the red flag, right? And usually those red flags are always right. So, but with like Shadow Generations, I literally have 0 red flags. Every time I look at it, I'm like, no, that just looks good. Or like I'll see people play the levels, right? And I'm just like, wow, no, there are like multiple paths that look like they actually change up your experience and make it fun. Or like, oh, like the music's good, you know, or like these remixes. And I know even like people have talked about like the colors for like the different levels kind of feel a little different from their original counterparts, like less saturated. But I think like it really fits with Shadow, and I really like the way the levels look actually. So like just everything about the game is just nailing it, and I really really want to come back in 2 weeks and just feel like, oh my gosh, is this what being happy to be a Sonic fan feels like?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree completely. The only complaint I would have is not about the game itself; it's that they sure seem determined to show us the entire thing before it comes out.
I mean, thankfully, we've only seen fully the Kingdom Valley and the Arc level, right?
I mean, I've very much been staying away from it because, like, especially with Kingdom Valley, as I'm sure you all can imagine, that's a I want to experience that for myself, like firsthand. But
I was gonna say, I actually felt the opposite because I'm like, well, we don't know what any of the Act 2s or 3s are like. We know there's the special levels where you play with like the teammates. We have the overworld. We've seen like nothing of that in terms of like what the platforming is going to be like. Obviously, like we know Mephiles is in it, but like what context? You know, what's the story for that? We have the Tokyo level with like Shadow for the movie. That's going to be its own thing. So I'm really excited for it because I'm just like, I just have like we know concepts of things that happen. But it's just like, man, like there's just going to be so much to like learn about and explore. It's just going to be so much fun. And they've said that ideally it should take you about as long as the original Generations, if not just like a little shorter. That's insane. So that's awesome.
Well, and that's one last thing before we leave is that one other complaint I have about this game is that Sega's finally delivering. And Ian, I'm sure you've forgotten this, but like a year and a half ago, we recorded a little video that I ended up scrapping. That was me basically saying Sega's going to make Shadow the Hedgehog 2. And I laid out all these things. I was like, they're gonna, they're gonna use like the Frontiers engine. They're gonna do like an open zone thing to like save on like development time since it's like a spin-off. They're gonna bring the Black Arms back. Like it's gonna. I predicted this game basically one for one, and I didn't release the video because I was like, because I felt like in the video I sounded like a crazy person. I just felt like the ramblings of a madman. But I was a prophet. And now no one is going to believe me. No one's going to believe I called this.
And I love that, like, what made you a prophet was that you had hope that Sonic could be good.
Yep.
So dreams do come true.
But yeah, I don't know. Any final thoughts on the animation before we juice and jam out of here?
Final thoughts is I think watching it all together, it's like a really, really great time. I think the directing and the animation is exactly what I want from a Sonic TV show if they ever make one. And again, I really hate though that I have to like casually say like, oh, it looks incredible. I'm like it really, like, it's one of those things where it just looks effortless. So like just watch it, just enjoy it. And again, watch them all together. Cause I think if you're someone who has watched all these separate and you're kind of like, oh, the third one was really good, maybe 2 was pretty fun, or it was okay, or the first one was, that was my favorite, watch them all together. And I think they all elevate each other. So no, just excellent work. And yeah, I would give, like, I don't know, out of 10. I don't usually give scores, but I mean, at least not when we do these videos, but I would probably give it like an 8. Like, I would easily rewatch it. Like, I thought it was just a great time. So
yeah. Oh, I remember the thing I forgot before, and it's important. It's important that I remembered it because it's not something we could have talked about when we reviewed the game. Do you think they bring back Maria, like, permanently?
No. If they did, people will try to kill Ian Flynn.
Really? You don't think, like, really?
I think half the fan base would immediately love it because they would be like, "Oh my god, they're so sad, they're so good." But then, like, over time, the thing that always happens to like Sonic will happen, and people will be like, "Actually, here's my 7-hour thesis on why tragedy builds character, and Flynn has just ruined tragedy, which is also ruining humanity." People are like, "Yeah, fuck Ian Flynn," and so yeah. So. I think the immediate reaction would be a positive one, but I think long term that would be a very, 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 very bad idea, and I wouldn't like it either. So,
I would be mixed on it. Obviously, it all depends on execution. The thing that led me to think they might do it is what Tower says, where he goes like, "Oh, there's only one person, but she's long gone," which I guess is probably him going like he's gonna see her again in the game, and they're gonna get to talk, and he's gonna get to learn things from her. But like,
which could be
about that line.
Cool. It was on. I mean, it stood out. Yeah.
Yeah. Something about that line very much felt like it very much feels like, and then the opposite happens.
Yeah. I mean, in some way, it'll probably be like that, where like that character will get to see them. Because I can't imagine that. Because like with like the Forces ones, it seemed like they were just kind of like, Flynn, come up with something, right? Or like with like the Mania Adventure stuff, it's like, oh, this is like a little extra thing. With this one, it really does seem like they're working really closely on these animations to tie into the story. So it kind of feels like well, it's like if Abraham Tower's in this, right, then that they're telling you he's a character. And also we know, obviously, that Rouge and Omega are in it. So who knows? Maybe the commander's in one of the levels, like one of the characters that stands outside it, right? Because, I mean, there's enough levels to go around for it. So yeah, no, maybe that could happen. But I don't think Maria's coming back. I just think it's a bad idea. Like, here's the thing that it immediately does. It deletes the tragedy completely. So... like, especially if we live in the Sonic universe where like time is nebulous, effectively Shadow had to live with the fact that his friend was dead for like, I don't know, a year approximately, and then he got her back for the rest of his life. Oh no. Like it just deletes the character, so. Yeah.
I don't know. I think on it. I think it could be good, but well, it's probably not gonna happen, but it was just something interesting I wanted to bring up. But yeah, no. So thank you everyone for listening. This went longer than I expected, but we just had so many nice things to say. It's good to say nice things. I like saying nice things.
Yeah, we had this and the Shadow manga back to back of being nice people.
Yeah. But yeah, and in 2 weeks we will be back for the return of Mephiles, which is
and Shadow gets to be there too.
Yeah, and Shadow will also be there, I guess. But yeah, no, I guess I should final thoughts. I also liked it if it wasn't obvious. But yeah, Ian, plug your shit before we go.
I'm Ian Waffles. You can find me at Ian Waffles on Twitter and YouTube. I'm currently I currently released a video recently about Bocchi the Rock, which I thought was really good. And then I'm also going to try to release 4 more videos before the end of the year. So look out for that. Thanks for having me as always.
Yep. And I'm here and I'm on Twitter at SilverAce01. You can watch me go insane as they release more news about the next Spider-Man movie. Yeah, until next time, like I said, we'll be back for Sonic X Shadow Generations. That'll be a good, fun time. Hopefully, God, we're gonna look. How sad are we gonna be looking back on this video if Sonic X Shadow Generations somehow ends up being ass?
Dude, if that happens, I will come on here and I will be sassy. So look forward to that.
But it has Mephiles. It has Mephiles, so that
will be what we land on. So we don't go crazy. No, it's gonna be. You know what? Fuck it. I'm saying it right now. Sonic X Shadow Generations is going to be good, and not only that, it's going to be great. All right. If Pastian fucks this up for me, I'm gonna kill him. So, anyway, thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.